Hello, it's Susan at Sassy Girl Beads, and today I thought I'd just share a little bit of how I choose which beads that I put together into a bracelet. Um, and ultimately, it really just is whatever makes me smile and makes me really think about, oh, that's the look I was thinking of but didn't know how to put it out there. So what I have here is I found some focal beads here. The focal beads are the beads that I want the focus of my jewelry piece to be centered on. And so I found these really nice butterfly beads, and I've seen them in different shapes and sizes. I have some with peace signs. I've I've just seen all kinds of them, and they're just a lot of fun, and they come in lots of different colors. So when I was looking this morning, I found these. I started with these little ones, um, but then decided, okay, I want to make a bracelet out of this. I make a lot of bracelets. I think it's because I have a short attention span, where necklaces it takes a little bit longer. Um, but yeah, I make a lot of bracelets. So when I first pulled these four beads out, I thought, oh, those colors go really well together, um, and I like the look of that. But then as I was looking for beads to go with it, um, I came across these little wooden seed beads that I have here, and these are in just all different colors here. It's purple and blue and yellow. Now, I'm not going to end up using all of the colors, although I could. I think these really complement the colors of the butterflies. But I believe I'm going to just kind of stick with, there's purple and green in here that match the beads almost identical. And when I purchased the butterflies and when I purchased the wooden seed beads, it was not in the same shopping trip whatsoever. In fact, sometimes it's years apart from when I purchased them, and it just, yeah, I have a very large stash of beads, of my own beads, along with the beads that are in the store. And that's part of my fun, is where I just start looking like, okay, I want to make a bracelet out of those. What do I have in my stash that complements those? All right, so I did some more searching, and then I found, because I knew I needed something more than just the seed beads here to make it into a length of a bracelet that I was picturing in my head. And my original thought was to put in just some silver metal beads in there, but I really didn't like that. When I put a couple of them together, the silver just kind of detracted away from butterflies, so I quickly got rid of those. I used a few of these in a recent project. These green circular, but they're very skinny, from what you're going to see there. And then I went down to another stash of mine and found I had some larger beads of the butterflies, and I just happened to have a green one. So perfect. Now, in another bracelet, I might decide to use all of those colors of the butterflies in there, but this one I'm going to go with, use that green one, the large one, as the center. And then I could alternate my colors. That's a great look. And or I could play with making the green ones kind of the center of the bracelet with the purple ones on the ends. I think either way would be a great idea. I think I'm going to do the alternating here. And sometimes before I jump right into a bracelet and start putting pieces together, a lot of times I will string just a couple of the components together just to get a feel for how they're going to fit together. So that's what I did before I, got everything all set up here. I just kind of started stringing some things together. I threw on a butterfly bead there, and then I, sometimes I do complementary colors or colors that match directly um, right next to, or sometimes I'll do alternating. I like to do different sizes of beads. It just gives it more of a dimension. Um, but as I put those together there, that purple little seed bead kind of got lost in that. And so I quickly decided, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. When I string on a purple, then I want to have that next to a green butterfly. I thought that worked better. It just popped right out than having the purple next to the purple or the green next to the green. So yeah, just throwing things on. Oh, one just went flying. My floor has probably several beads all over it. And so I quickly decided, yep, I'm going to put the green right next to the purple and do kind of an alternating design there. And then I realized, oh, I've got this other shape bead that's going to give it another dimension. So let me just kind of play with this a little bit and put in a purple and maybe now a green of that size. And then just do the same pattern back out. So a purple and a green. And then this would be great if I was going to put another purple bead here, but I'm not. I decided to do the alternating. So maybe I need to, do one extra purple before I do a green butterfly. All right, so I just kind of mess with it for a little bit. That usually takes me more time kind of deciding what I want the design to look like than it does actually putting it together. I do like that extra shape in there, that green middle bead there. I do like that. But it's also kind of off. So I've got 3 on one side and 2 on the other. I think that looks okay. I might change my mind as I go, which that happens a lot of the time. I'll get to a point where I'll come up with another idea and I'll just change it. And as long as it makes me happy in the end, then that's all worth it there. Okay, so I think I have a pretty good idea of what I want it to look like. So this was just a testing wire that I had. I have those laying all over the place. It probably was a piece of wire that I cut for a bracelet, and then once I started putting it, it was just a little too short. So that's probably where it came from. All right, so the stringing wire, there's all kinds of options out there for what stringing wire you choose to go with. And this one's being silly here. There it is. Couldn't find the end of it. It was missing. There we go. Okay, so the wire that I'm using right now, there's different brands. I do like the Beadalon wire. You can see I'm about halfway through it. All right, so what this one actually is, when it says here up at the top, 7 strand, what that means is there's 7 little tiny wires in here that are all woven together. It's kind of hard to believe that there's 7 in there. And then around those 7 strands, there's almost like a plastic coating that's on the outside of it that makes it very, very smooth. It also keeps it from getting kinks in it really easily. Now, certainly if I go and take the wire and I can kind of bend it around and it doesn't kink too bad. But if I, get crazy with it and really smush it, eventually it's going to get a kink in there. And most of the time your beads will kind of cover that up. But it's just something to keep in mind. When I make bracelets out of this, if somebody were to take their bracelet and kind of fold it in half, most people don't do that. Sometimes I'm a little rough on my jewelry. But if you were to fold it in half, you might get a kink in it. So it's just something to keep in mind when you are making jewelry or even wearing something that you know is made with that type of wire. All right. Also on this, it tells us like how, of course, how much is on the spool, but it also gives you an idea of what the diameter is, so that I mean, you've got it in millimeters here or in inches, 0.6, and so that helps you kind of um, match up what holes that you might be using on your beads. Now, I honestly don't sit here and measure what measurement I have here with what holes I have. I have, several different types, sizes, and if I'm working with a really small hole on the beads, and if my wire doesn't go through really easily, then I know, okay, I've got the wrong one, and I'll just switch that out. But I've already kind of tested this. I tested it on, that's another reason why this extra wire was good. It's the same size as the one I'm going to use, and so I tested ahead of time so I don't get too frustrated. All right, so I'm going to pull out a length of this, longer than the one I had there. Oops, I'm not showing that, sorry. I'm just pulling out a hunk, and longer than what I need for my bracelet, because if you make it too short, it's just more difficult to put the toggle on at the end. All right, so not quite as long as my beading mat here, so not quite 11 inches there, but maybe about 10 inches or so. And I'm using today my pliers here have a cutter built in, if you can see that. Certainly I could use my flush cutters, that's just a cutter, but these pliers, it's like having two tools in one. So I'm just going to use that as my cutter today, and just kind of cut the wire. And sometimes after you've used them for a while, they get a little dull. Which these are very dull. I guess I need to get my cutters. Oh no. Well, goodness sakes. I don't have my cutters sitting right here. I cleaned up my space. There we go. Cleaned up my space and moved those cutters to the other room. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and create and put the toggle on one end so that I've got a nice stopper at the end. I pulled out a couple different styles. Toggles come in a bunch of different styles here. And I wasn't really sure which one I wanted to use until I put them with the beads. Sometimes if that's all I have, it's all I have. But I had, of course, lots of different styles here. And so I just look at, what do I prefer? I think I'm going to go with the one that's a little more plain here. Okay. And again, just kind of, I don't want the other parts of the bracelet to detract from the butterflies. I want those to really, really pop out. Okay, I need to make sure that I put my butterflies in the order that I want them in. Otherwise, I might forget. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this rounded end here first. I have some crimp beads here. Those are, it's 1.3 millimeters, so they're pretty small. You get a whole bunch of them in containers, so I don't use them too fast. All right, so I'm just going to grab one. Now the end of my wire is a little bent here. I see that from that cutting, so I'm going to use this side here. All right, poke it through the crimp bead. Feed that onto my toggle. Now here's where I'm going to bend this over a little bit. And feed the crimp bead right through again here. It's really tiny. And so it might take me a minute. If I used a larger crimp bead, it would be a little easier. Getting my glasses off my face and moving my eyeballs closer to it sometimes helps as well. So bear with me here. It's kind of like trying to feed a to thread a needle. Okay, so there we go. I want to leave a little bit of wiggle room there at the end, so I'm not going to pull that super tight. Just whatever kind of looks pretty decent there. I'm feeding that up through. I'm trying to keep the wires on the same side as what they were on the other side. So on each side of the crimp bead, I'll kind of spin that around like that. Okay, now if you are just getting started with beading and you're trying to do this, you know, as cheap as possible or without putting in a lot of money into tools and things, for a really long time, actually my next tool that I'm going to buy is going to be a crimper. It's a tool that will crimp the beads in a better way than just smashing them down like I'm going to. But that is my next tool to learn how to use and to purchase. But I've been making jewelry for many years now for myself and others, and just smashing the crimp bead works pretty well. Okay, so you just crimp it, you just smash it down. And like I said, I will be getting a crimper and learning how to use that and show you how to use that as well, which makes it just a little bit of a nicer finish. But it's so tiny that for myself, I just don't see it's not a huge difference for me. Okay, so let's try to, now what I like to do is try to cover this extra piece of wire up with some beads as best I can. Sometimes it's a little tricky because that also means that the holes on my beads have to be big enough for two wires. All right, but we're gonna give it a go here. Let's just try one of these seed beads here. And before I try to fit on any more, I'm gonna try to force that through. Remember to keep my hands where you can actually see them. Okay, so it's being a little tough there. There we go. So there's one. I'm gonna feed on my pattern here, so I'm gonna try a purple one. Oops, that wasn't purple. How about a green? And there we go. Okay, so I'm not really sure how close I need these to the end, but I do know that I want the green to be the first butterfly. So I'm gonna at least do another purple here. Like so. This is going to turn into a longer video because I'm not going to be cutting out sections from the video. Okay, there we go. We got purple. I'm going to go ahead and do the green butterfly there. Okay, so purple's next. Purple. And then I think I'm going to do green, purple. That darn little extra hunk of bent wire there is giving me some troubles. So what I'm going to do here in just a second is cut that off. And some of these wooden beads, since they're painted different colors, some of their holes can be kind of filled up. So you can take another tool and ram through that to cut it open, or just, use the beads at work. All right, now I want to use one of these here. I like that. All right, and then a purple. Let's see. I'm just trying to decide if I think I want to do more. Another seed green, and then a purple, and then the butterfly. Purple, and then purple butterfly. See, that's where it's going to be like, ah. So I like the balance on either side of this green disc. So I have to decide, do I like the balance of that more than I like having the butterfly offset with a different color? Yeah, I think I like that balance. So I'm gonna see what this looks like. All right, and I'm gonna do that same thing now, but let's see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna keep it the same. So we're gonna do purple, green, purple. So even though I wasn't really sold on having the purple little seed bead next to the purple butterfly, I like the symmetry more. So that's changing my decision there. All right, so purple. That one's painted over. And that one is almost painted over. That can get a little frustrating. But you can have, there's definitely a tool that you can use. I think it's called a reamer, where you can just, that pokes right through your holes. There we go. Okay, and then a purple. And now the green disc one. I really like these. All right, then purple, green, purple. Purple, green, purple. Moving right along. Throw on a large green butterfly. Yeah, I'm liking how that's looking. I hope that I can do the full pattern within the bracelet. Sometimes when I've made bracelets, I get this really great pattern going, and then at the end of the bracelet, I can't quite continue the pattern because it doesn't fit within the the length of a wrist. All right, purple, green, purple. And then the green disc. There, okay. Oops, purple's next. Now, if you're using a different type of stringing material that's more more string-like and isn't as stiff as this, then you could actually thread a needle on here. And I think a lot of people like to bead with needles, and they just use that needle to poke through their beads. All right, purple. Yeah, that's got a little bit of paint in there too. There we go. All right, purple, green, purple. Now we need a purple butterfly. The other thing I'm also watching for is that I like my butterflies going the same direction. You don't have to. It's all about what makes you smile. But if that's what you're going for, I would always double check that you made them all go the direction you want them to before you finish the bracelet. Because once you put that other end of the toggle on, it's there unless you rip it all apart. Which I've had to do that before. That one's just a little bit. There we go. Green. Purple. chasing all these little seed beads around. It's a little crazy. Purple. And a green disc. I don't know how entertaining these videos are, but if you're, looking for different ideas, that's kind of what my goal is, just to give different thoughts, different ideas, especially for those of you that are starting out. I know when I started out, I just kind of tried a bunch of things, but if I would have had, YouTube was not a big thing when I started, and I know that's kind of my go-to now some days, and so that's what I'm hoping that this will be helpful for. All right, go purple. Oh my goodness. Green and a purple. And certainly you don't have to do alternating. That was just what kind of happened here. All right, so that's all of my focal beads. Oops, don't mess up the pattern now. We're doing so good. Purple. Green. And purple. Green disc. So I'm going to finish the pattern and then just kind of test it out to see how I like the length of it. And then I'll add or subtract beads from there. Some folks, I'm sure, just have a measurement. Have a measurement, tape measure, or a bead board that has the measurement there, where you don't have to guess and you know ahead of time. Especially if you are really trying hard to have a pattern but yet have it fit all together, then laying it all out on a bead board or with a measurement of some sort would be helpful. I'm not as particular about that sometimes. So, all right, so that's my completed pattern here. And let's kind of give it a measurement. So you can put a bead stopper on here or a piece of tape, a piece of Scotch tape at the end, or I just try to be really careful and I'm just going to put it around my wrist and see where I'm at here. Okay, so I've got a little bit of room yet before the toggle has to fit in. So I need to add some more beads. Yeah. So I could just extend and do another section of this here. I could just change up the whole design and throw on some green discs there. It's really all what you want to do. Again, if you're very particular about it being symmetrical all the way throughout the piece, and sometimes I am, depending on what I'm working with. If that were the case, I would take all of these off the string and I'd add more on the end here at the beginning so that I could match it up at the end. I'm going to see if I can just add like another section here to see what that will look like. Actually, let's do one of these. Or like I said, you could just do several of these and just have like a section of this at the end here. That wouldn't be a horrible thing. Yeah, actually, I think I'm going to try that. At least to see what it looks like. Because I need probably at least a 1/2 inch before I put the other toggle on. One, two, three, four, five, six. Let's see what that looks like. So I just added 6 of the green discs there. All right, I'm going to measure this, in my fancy measuring way here. And again, I have to be really careful that I don't let loose. Okay, that's a lot closer. And in fact, that's going to fit. Once I put the toggle on there, I think that's going to fit really nice because the toggle is going to give it a little bit more space. Yeah. And for me, the bracelets don't always stay in one spot on your wrist anyways, and so I don't think that this little section here that's different detracts from the look of the bracelet. I think that looks good. Again, if that were really bothering me, I'd tear the whole thing apart and just add on a section at the beginning to make it fit better. But I think this is going to be good. I'm going to add one more green one and then finish it off. So to finish it off, I'm going to use another crimp bead and then load on my toggle here. The other thing that I always have to watch out for is those of you that have used bracelets that have toggles on them know that this end of the toggle has to fit inside this hole when you go to put the bracelet on, right? Because you have to come around and you have to put this inside of it. And so having a group of smaller beads on the end is really beneficial. If I would have ended the bracelet with a butterfly, for instance, if I had another purple one or whatever, and let's put it here, then that big butterfly is not going to fit through that toggle and I wouldn't be able to put the bracelet on. And I've done that before. I have. So just something to think about when you're working with toggles on that end with the bar here. You got to make sure that whatever beads you have at the end is going to be something that fits through there. Okay, that's really important. Okay, so I'm going to double check that my wire is still covered up here at the beginning, because sometimes as you're working with this, the beads will slide and maybe slide off of that. That looks good. I'm going to now put this end. I put my toggle on there and I'm going to loop it back through. And this is again where you're kind of like threading that needle. Sometimes I have to do it one bead at a time. Because sometimes these crimp beads are a little tricky to work with. All right, let's try that again. Okay, so I'm putting my finger underneath that crimp bead to kind of push up on the hole, to push the hole up for me. And it's being tricky, but that's okay. Sorry, it's hard to show it as I'm trying to do it, but there we go. That's what you're trying to get, is that crimp bead double threaded like that. Okay, and notice that I needed a big chunk to really be able to handle that, to poke it through. That's why you want to make your original wire a few inches bigger than the bracelet will end up being. Okay, so I'm going to kind of pull these through, and because you don't want to leave all of that space on there, because then that's going to look really weird. But I do want to feed this wire through a few more beads, because that will hide the end if I can get it to go through the bead twice. And I don't know that I put the wire through twice of these little disc ones, so I'm not sure if it's going to work. Okay. Yeah, went through the crimp twice, but I can't get it through this one, which is okay because I'm going to show you how to fix that. But I'm going to try one more time by looking at it with my eyeballs instead of my glasses. Yeah, it might fit through there, but it's not going to be easy. Okay, and that happens. So I don't really want to clip off my wire that close to the crimp bead. I want to have a little bit of a tail. So what I'm going to do is, remember that back here at the beginning I used the seed beads to cover that second end. I'm going to do the same thing here. So I just have to tear this apart. It's just a little bit, right? Just take that off, take the toggle off, take the crimp bead off. I don't want to just add seed beads here because that's going to make it longer. And I think I have a good size there. So I'm just going to take off 2 of those discs and then feed on. I could do just purples. I could do just greens. I could alternate again. You've got some choices here. I'm just going to leave it green, and I'm going to pick some green. Maybe about 2 or 3. I took off 2 of the discs, and so 2 seed beads should be good. I'm looking for seed beads that have a really big hole, because I know I'm going to have to put that wire through twice, because that's the whole goal here. I'm going to do 3. If I can find a third one with a nice hole. There we go. All right, I hope that my bead mat isn't moving too much to where you can't see what I'm doing. I'm going to have to go back and look through the video to see. Okay, so there we go. Now do the crimp bead. Oops, then the toggle. And then back through the crimp bead. And again, I'm going to use my magnifying glass here, which is just my natural eyeballs. It's being tricky. But we know that it fits because we had it through the crimp bead before. Just have to be patient. There we go. Okay, so then I'm going to pull that crimp bead down a little bit. I want to now feed this wire hopefully through a couple of the seed beads. But I think the end of my wire has just been smashed enough. Okay, let's back it up. So I'm thinking that these seed beads just have, this one just might have too much paint glob there. Before I try that, I'm just going to try to clean up my end. Maybe that will give it enough. There we go. Sharpen that end up a little bit. Maybe that will help. Which is probably what I should have done in the first place. Now, if I wasn't doing this on camera, it probably would have worked much smoother. Oop, there we go. There we go. Got it. So I'm going to be really happy if I get it through 2 of these. Oh, got 2. Let's try the third one that I put on there. Probably should have clipped that in a long time ago. Okay, so now, again, we don't want to have all of this extra wire because that bracelet's way too long. So I'm going to just kind of grab, not that, grab this one and kind of pull it through, pull it through. Oops, I'm pulling the wrong end here. And pull that tail through. I'm holding onto the crimp bead and kind of pulling that to the end. Again, I want to leave a little bit of slack for the toggle, but I want to try to get rid of this extra wire between the seed beads and the crimp bead here. Okay, that's not too bad. I still don't like how much extra wire there is, so we're gonna grab on to one side with the pliers, grab on to the other side with another pair of pliers. Working with 2 pairs of pliers is something that I had to get used to. But once you do that, it's like having some industrial strength fingers. All right, so I'm holding on to one side, kind of pulling it through, because I just want to make it a little tighter. Not a lot, but a little. Okay, there we go. Maybe one more little tug. There we go. Okay, so now what I want to do is cut this extra wire, but I want to do it with the flush side. So if you're using a tool that has the cutter in with the pliers there, I want to put the flush side close to the bead because I want to cut as close to the bead as I possibly can. All right, so I'm gonna put that in there. I'm gonna pull on this extra little tail just a little bit, clip it off, and then you still might see a little tail there. And so now what I'm going to do is I just kind of pull my crimp bead back just a little bit to kind of pull that wire through that last bead, and then bring that crimp close to the beads themselves. All right, hopefully that made sense. And again, it's something that it just takes practice. All right, and then I'm going to crimp my bead, close it nice and tight, so that those wires don't slide through. And there we go. There's our bracelet. Let me get all this mess out of the way here so we can see it all done. There we go. Yeah, I really like it. I love green anyways, and this green and purple just spoke to me today. So there we go. I hope that that made sense. And again, creating jewelry, it gives you so much freedom to make things that just make you happy. You don't have to, you know, do it like everybody else does. So there we go. I like it. All right. If you have any questions or want to see a particular video, send me a message. Make sure that you like my page on Facebook, Sassy Girl Beads, and check out the website for, I haven't decided if I'm going to sell this one or keep it for myself. I struggle with that a lot because I just love what I make all the time. So there we go. If you have any questions, let me know. I hope you have a great day. Bye. Okay, I'm still here. There we go. Bye.